Oh boy, this video took a little bit more work and research than I thought it would, and I am so happy to say that, because the Electroshock rifle is the kind of video where I was going to sit down and talk about this weapon just because Epic reskinned something and I figured everybody would be curious. And that's kind of something that puts a bad taste in us late game players' mouths because we've already experienced this weapon, you know? I'm not even going to show the perks right off the bat because that's really, as much as the title and the thumbnail might say otherwise, it's really not even what this video is about. I want to talk about the weapon, not specifically the perks. Obviously, we're going to get to the perks later on, okay? Like, don't worry. We're going to talk about why we're using what your alternatives are, what the 6 perk options are. We're going to get into all of it. Don't you worry one bit. But the perks are second place here because you can see the stats are identical. I mean, just looking at the numbers without even shooting the weapon, you can see, okay, this is the exact same thing as the Argon assault rifle, or at least that's what I would have assumed. Even the description is identical. But there are a couple of things that I noted in my video on the Powerhouse pack. Now, obviously, the Electroshock rifle comes with the Powerhouse skin, so if you're curious as to what all of that is about, I will absolutely link my video on the overview down in the description below. You're probably coming from that video if you're even watching this, because this will be linked in that video's description as well. You should definitely go check it out, see if this is worth buying. I think it might be, but it completely depends on your personal situation, your financial situation, whether or not you already have the game, blah, blah, blah. That video gets way into that rabbit hole on its own. What we're talking about here today is specifically the Electroshock rifle and, of course, how it compares to the Argon assault rifle, whose stats it stole. Now, I want to say that these are the same weapon, but I am so happy to report that they really aren't in an interesting way. Now, the key difference between the Electroshock rifle and the Argon assault rifle is, of course, the look, the feel, and the sound. So I recorded some gameplay without the typical podcast or music that I listen to when I record these videos, and you can see with the Argon assault rifle, it has a very, very similar recoil spread. I shot both of these weapons back and forth so many times trying to figure out which one might be different, and it seems like the recoil pattern is mostly similar, and I feel so weird saying that I feel like the Electroshock rifle is more accurate, but as objectively as I can say it, I don't think it is. And what's happening with the Argon assault rifle is it's a lot more flashy when it shoots. It makes about like 2 sound effects, so it sounds like it's shooting twice as fast, but if you look at the ammo, it's really not. It's actually shooting about, well, obviously as the numbers would suggest, exactly the same speed as the Electroshock rifle, and while it feels like it's less accurate because it's shooting more often, it sounds like an SMG, but it's shooting like an accurate, AR. So it's really, really interesting the way these weapons are mathematically identical, but I cannot lie to you and say that I don't prefer the Electroshock rifle way more because it takes away all the flashiness. It only shoots 1 pew per shot. It feels like I'm shooting a laser weapon, and it looks so much more accurate, which is kind of important. So I'm happy to say this, and this is why I'm in such a chipper tone, and that it's not just mathematically the same. It feels a lot better, and that matters because that flashy effect, that double sound effect whenever you shoot, it matters when you're in the middle of a gunfight because you're not always going to be looking at your ammo count. You want to know and feel your weapon and how it's functioning when you're in the middle of a fight. And the Electroshock rifle gives me a lot more feedback. It's a lot cleaner to use. It's a lot more focused on the target, and it feels a lot better to use in general. So yeah, it's obviously it steals the stats from the Argon assault rifle, but in every way that I look at it, it's basically a completely different weapon, and I feel like that's kind of an inevitability. Now, there are an infinite different numbers of, crit damages, crit chances you could give these weapons, fire rate, mag size, everything can be changed to make everything unique. But if you want to go the route of making weapons with identical stats of each other, my point is, like, once you have enough weapons in the game, eventually you're going to have 2 that are similar. For my Pokemon fans out there, eventually, when you make enough different Pokemon, 2 of them are going to have similar stats or movesets. Like, it's going to happen. Now, like I said, there's a lot less of an excuse in Save the World, but in this case, it is something worth noting that even though these weapons have the same stats, they're very different. And I also want to mention, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, you probably saw it right off the bat, the Argon assault rifle costs batteries to craft, which 15 batteries per weapon is not a ton, but it is something. And when you get into the late game, you kind of find that Sunbeam isn't really that scarce. I mean, it's not common, mind you, but it's not impossible to come across. 3 extra Sunbeam instead of 15 batteries, in my opinion, as a late game player who uses energy cells for other weapons like the Mythics, I am much happier not using batteries than I am using batteries. And of course, for all of the other reasons already mentioned, I prefer the Electroshock rifle. Now, Now. That is hopefully plenty about this weapon. Let's get into the perks and how you're going to want to spec it, because it appears as though, from the comments I got on my Powerhouse video, the 6 perks that you get are randomized between these 4. I was unfortunate to get the headshot eliminations cause an explosion, and I say that because with a lot of the baby zombies on the map, I was able to just aim for their head. They were mostly dying in one shot if I had just eaten a coconut especially, and of course, as you can see, the headshot multiplier on this thing is very impressive, so it was pretty consistent in one-shotting the baby zombies. They'd almost always kill all of the other baby zombies, so a lot of your most annoying enemies were just eliminated right off the bat just by shooting them in the head. So I don't prefer this 6 perk truly. I do believe, obviously, the Affliction or the Slowed and Snared allows you to have a damage to afflicted or slowed and snared 5th perk. That is a nice damage bonus. However, I actually found myself killing the Smashers a little bit quicker with the Miss Monsters and Bosses 5th perk. So I don't know if that's really a huge thing. Obviously, 36% is less than 45, but it activates with every single shot. So it's kind of tricky how these numbers work out. I mean, you can make any 6 perk work. Even if you get the 5 headshots in a row, well, just aim for the head when you're shooting at a bigger target. I do believe this is not worth a core reperk, so if you're trying to make this weapon work, you should probably just roll with whatever 6 perk you get. If you get one of the headshot ones, then try your best to aim for the head and maybe give this a damage to Miss Monsters and Bosses. And if you get the Affliction or Slowed and Snared, then just try to match it in the 5th perk slot. As for the rest of the perks, fire rate and damage is probably, well, no, it is, I've done the math, is the exact same DPS as crit rating and crit damage, but this is kind of a slower firing, more accurate laser weapon. So to perk it with fire rate and damage kind of negates that effect and turns this into more of like a pseudo SMG, which this weapon is not meant to be. You want to keep it accurate, and with a 15% base crit chance, you're going to have about a 43% crit chance, which is actually plenty. Almost half of your shots are going to be critting, and it's not going to be that bad of an experience. I, for one, thought it was completely fine. I prefer a reload, personally speaking. It does have about a 2.5 base reload time, which is kind of long, but I was pretty happy with the reload perk on this, so I kind of just put reload speed, and I've not really regretted it. Obviously, you can go mag size if you prefer to not reload as often, and then damage is just kind of, if you are okay with the mag size and you are okay with reloading a little bit slower, then yeah, a damage perk would give you more damage per bullet. If that's something you feel that you need, then go for it, but I don't really think that this perk slot matters all that much. It's kind of preference at that point. And then, of course, energy is your only option. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you made it to the end, because this was kind of an interesting video. It's one of those videos that I'm almost obligated to make as a YouTuber because it's a quote-unquote new weapon, but as you heard, I am actually quite excited to announce that it is not that similar, and I'm very, very happy about that, because I feel like if they're going to continue this trend of making starter pack weapons clones of other weapons in the game, then changing up the recoil pattern at least, you know, giving it a new sound effect and a new feel and a new visual cue whenever you shoot these weapons is a really good way to make them at least different enough so that you feel like you didn't waste your money. If you guys want to support my channel, I'd really appreciate it if you use code Mista at your checkout. It really does help me. If you guys want to become a channel member, you can use these emotes down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. And then